Buenos días. I think that the translator will do a better job by translating what I'm saying in English than myself trying to speak Spanish. So, forgive me.
No, right.
My name is Caroline Figueres. I'm director of the International Institute for Communication and Development. I'm also an active member of the Global Knowledge Partnership. And I'm sitting there with these two hats, so it's also an interesting perspective of what you are doing with networking, is that you have these many hats and you have to find a balance between the different aspects. So what I would like to share with you. This is okay. What I would like to do is to share with you some of the challenge and the things that we have experienced in the network that we have supported as an organization and also as a participant on networks organization. The starting point is very much aligned with what has been said in the former presentation, is that we fundamentally believe that network has a key role to play as transformation agent. And we can come back a little bit later on this assumption through the discussion. But what I'm going to tell you in terms of a challenge and things that we have developed are very much aligned with these ideas. The most important things for networks to work and to be valuable, being able to bring success to their activities, is really to start by having a shared vision and strategy of what they want to achieve together. And this is a very lengthy process because people have different ideas, suggestions, thinking, perspective, mission, etc., etc. So it's not always easy to find a common ground to work together to get results. And it's also important to, when you have defined this vision and you have a strategy of how you're going to do it, it's also important to review it on a regular basis, because the motivation and the ideas of people are changing, the environment is changing, so it's important to review on a regular basis if what you are willing is, and the way you are doing it is still serving your purpose. Sorry. So the raison d'être, the reason of being of the network is the fundamental. And then you need really to create enough value for the people that are part of this membership, of this network, of this partnership, to be willing to continue to work together, to create win-win situation, that people are involved, that people are benefiting from it, and that having a good balance between what they are bringing in and what they are taking out. The most important thing in that perspective is the trust that you can and that you have to build between the different partners. Without trust, you will be nowhere. And to build this trust, you need many rounds of discussion and doing things together, and in many cases it's taking several years before you get this trust done. Another important element in a network to work well is to have a proper leadership. And this means that you can use the concept of servant leadership. I mean, the network is not there for the benefit of the chairman, but the network is there to serve the different members. And how they are doing it, it's depending on the expectation of the different members, but the leadership of the network should be there in such a way that is promoting everybody, but not promoting himself or herself as a person. And this is fundamental. We have seen example of network that were doing well, and at some moment the chairman was taking too much power out of it, and then the network just collapsed. So it can go very fast. The last issue I would like to mention is that from our experience in the developing country where we are working, it's not easy to get networks that are very well gender balanced. So we are really working hard to get a proper participation of women and men in the network, and it's asking a lot of creativity by applying specific session for women to be sure that the voice are heard as it should be. I would like to leave it here for the moment.
Okay, it's a good point. I write it down. Now, Anriette Esterhuysen, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, sorry. She is director of APC, Alianza para el Progreso de la Comunicación. They are a network organization trying to use ICT as the driver force for changing. I think that your long experience could be right for this debate. Please, Anriette.
Is the microphone working?
No.
Not really. No, so give me that one. Thank you. I'll perhaps tell you, because I think Stefan and Caroline have mentioned some of the generic elements. So maybe tell you a bit about APC and what we've learned. APC emerged in the late 1980s, and next year we'll be 20 years old as a network. And we've evolved a structure of being a network and an organization. So there are 52 members around the world, but also staff. And we do not use the term secretariat, incidentally, because for us that doesn't work, actually. It hasn't worked, so we have staff. What our approach is that really networks perhaps are like ecosystems, and they emerge organically, and they have to evolve, and every network has to find its own way. We also, in APC, distinguish between a network as an entity and working in a networked way. And we've learned that if you think of those two processes separately, it can enable effectiveness. For us, perhaps much more important than having a common vision, which we feel is perhaps a bit weighted in theories of network, is having common values and having something in the network that brings people to it, that they identify with it. And I think if we look at social networks and how successful social networks are, you can see those patterns in successful development networks. So what is particularly important? I think diversity. I think networks that build a culture of respect and diversity works very well. In APC, we had a particular challenge in the 1990s because we had a body of members from Latin America who were very left-wing and very radical, and particular ideological approaches. And then we also suddenly had this influx of members from Central and East Europe who were young people in the environmental movement, very strongly anti-communist. And so for about 10 years, we had to work with these two very different ideological thrusts, and yet it worked. So I think building a culture where difference and diversity is seen as a strength is very important. I think the other thing that we've learned is that you do need equality, I think, as has been said, is very important. You need flexibility. I think it's, again, the notion of networks as an ecosystem. Networks change all the time. They're not linear. Sometimes one element of the network will be strong and another will be weak. Sometimes you'll have good gender balance, sometimes you won't. So accepting that is important. But having procedures is extremely important. You do need some processes that are predictable and that give you transparency and continuity. So we have, for example, for projects, we have an internal tender process where there's a competitive but transparent tendering process when our members help us to implement projects. We have regular meetings. The ownership is very, very clear that with the members, in terms of the overall strategy, they decide.